Officer Tung sat across from Mr. Dung, Jack's mother's longtime friend, in a small but cozy office. The atmosphere was calm, except for the soft hum of a fan running, creating a strangely relaxed feeling. Mr. Dung, although older and retired, still retained the sharpness of someone with years of experience in law enforcement. Tung, a young and passionate police officer, felt the tension as they prepared for the crucial operation ahead. "We have to be extremely careful with every move," Mr. Dung said, his gaze serious as he observed Tung's reactions. "You know, the villains are not the easy type to catch. They always find ways to hide, but if we play it right, we can make them reveal themselves." Tung nodded. He understood the gravity of the situation. Although he was a little anxious, this was their only chance to capture the criminals without putting anyone in danger. "And Jack, Mr. Dung, what do you think?" Tung asked, concerned about Jack's involvement in this plan. Mr. Dung furrowed his brows, still uneasy. "He's a target. I don't want him to get hurt. Jack's mother has told me about the schemes that Secretary Huong and her underlings are using to destroy him. If we're not careful, they could take over his company." Tung sighed and looked at Mr. Dung, his eyes full of resolve. "We can't let that happen. Jack is the only one who can draw Secretary Huong and her gang out. He's the key to getting them into the open. If we do this right, it will be over soon." Mr. Dung still wasn't entirely comfortable with the plan, but he nodded. "If Jack has agreed to participate, we need to make sure he's protected. Secretary Huong and her team don't just want to ruin him. They want to bankrupt the entire company. They've been watching every move Jack makes, and they're trying to bring him down." Just moments later, Jack walked into the room, his face serious but determined. He approached the table and sat down, looking at both men. "Hello, everyone," Jack said, his voice deep yet firm. "I've thought it through and I'm in. But before we start, I want to know exactly what my role in this plan is." Tung and Mr. Dung exchanged glances before Tung elaborated further. "We'll make them believe that Jack is in great danger. Secretary Huong and her underlings will think Jack is trying to escape them. We'll leave a few false trails to make them think Jack is hiding in an area where they can easily capture him," Tung explained. "The goal is to trick them into walking right into a trap. Jack will be the bait, but what they don't know is that we'll be watching them closely." Mr. Dung continued, his voice serious. "We'll set up a fake scenario to make them believe Jack is living in fear, being hunted by them. But in reality, everything they do is just pushing them into the trap we've set." Jack's concern was evident in his eyes, but he knew there was no turning back. "So, I'll act like someone who's being chased, right? How do I make sure they don't realize we're tracking them?" Tung looked at Jack, recognizing the resolve in his eyes. "Exactly. But the most important thing is for you to act naturally. They can't suspect a thing. They have to think they have the upper hand." Mr. Dung smiled, though worry still lingered in his expression. "Jack, you mustn't give any indication that this is a setup. It has to feel real, no mistakes." The next day, the plan officially began. Jack, with the support of Tung and Mr. Dung, started to create false leads that made Secretary Huong and her team believe Jack was on the run. Information was leaked. Fake phone calls were made, and online traces were left to make them think Jack was panicked and trying to escape. But things weren't as easy as they seemed. Secretary Huong, although intelligent, still couldn't detect that everything was part of a game orchestrated by the police and Jack's friends. They began to believe they were weakening Jack, that the company was on the brink of collapse, and that Jack was the one who would bring it down. With each step, Jack and Tung had to be even more careful, as Secretary Huong's gang was always lurking. Eventually, the underlings of Secretary Huong, who had been drawn into the plan unknowingly, acted on the false information that Jack and Tung had provided. When they showed up at a location Jack had set up, the police swooped in and arrested the gang members. Though they didn't catch Secretary Huong, capturing her underlings was still a major victory. They had been led to believe they were in control, but now they were behind bars, facing serious charges. Jack and Tung knew the battle wasn't over, but this was a big step toward unraveling Secretary Huong's scheme and protecting Jack's company. As soon as she lost contact with her henchmen, Huong panicked. She knew her plan was unraveling, and everything was about to collapse. Her men, assigned to monitor Jack and stir chaos within the company, had suddenly gone silent. Hours passed with no word, and Huong sensed imminent danger. Her instincts, honed from years of deceit, screamed that time was running out. She needed to flee immediately before it was too late. In a matter of minutes, Huong packed her belongings, preparing to leave the safe house she had been hiding in. Although the full picture wasn't clear yet, she couldn't risk waiting. Losing her men likely meant law enforcement was closing in. She summoned a private car and ordered the driver straight to the international airport. "Don't stop." Her eyes were filled with tension. She knew that if she didn't get out of the country now, arrest would be inevitable. Meanwhile, at the police headquarters, Officer Tung and Mr. Dung, Jack's mother's longtime friend, received confirmation that Huong's henchmen had been captured. Though Huong herself remained at large, dismantling her network was a major step forward. Still, neither of them let their guard down. They knew Huong wouldn't go quietly. She was far too cunning to be caught so easily. "We can't let Huong slip away," Tung said firmly to Mr. Dung. "She won't go down without a fight." Mr. Dung nodded and immediately called airport security. "Check every international flight. Huong may be trying to flee. No one leaves without being screened." The airport quickly went on high alert. Security personnel began thorough checks of all flights, baggage, and passengers. Specialized airport police teams were deployed at entrances, boarding gates, and departure lounges, especially watching for any suspicious behavior. At that very moment, Huong arrived at the airport, hurriedly making her way to the check-in area. She tried to stay calm, but anxiety gnawed at her. Every step felt watched, but she pushed forward. Missing this flight could mean losing everything. Airport security, tipped off in advance, had her name and profile. Officers combed to the passenger lists and watched the lines carefully, scanning for anyone resembling her description. Time was running out. Huong approached the security checkpoint. Despite her nerves, she maintained a composed exterior. Just then, a security officer stopped her. "We need to check your baggage," he said firmly, though not suspiciously. "Of course," Huong replied with a polite smile. But inside, her heart pounded like a war drum. Elsewhere in the airport, Officer Tung and Mr. Dung had just arrived. With intel from airport staff, they began moving toward the inspection zone. "We have to hurry," Tung muttered. "If she gets on that plane, she's gone." The pressure rose as security increased their screening of passengers and luggage. It felt as if everything was aligning for a final confrontation. Would Huong escape, or was her downfall finally near? Huong glanced nervously around, though no pursuers were in plain sight. She felt the presence of eyes watching her. Could this really be the end of the elaborate scheme she had crafted for so long? With every passing second, Huong sensed a tightening net around her. She needed to get on that plane before her cover was blown. After receiving information about Huong's appearance at the airport, Tang and Mr. Dung immediately went to the airport. Will they be able to catch Huong? Let's follow along.